Hello, my name is Andrew. You can call me Cookies, and we're going to be taking a look at Mythic Tarragrue and just talking about how to heal it. So first off, when starting this fight, one thing I will mention, I guess, before we get into this is this footage is unfortunately not mine. I forgot to record our kill, so I just found footage using WoW Progress. This is from the guild Ethical. I think they killed it week 1, and we basically have a really good representation of like the debuffs and whatnot on the raid frame, so that's why I chose this. So the first major thing that we're going to watch out for in this fight is going to be Grasp of Death. That is what these like kind of blackish red debuffs are across people's raid frames. So what this debuff does is it will tick for very, very, very heavy damage, and I think they have it for a good like 30 seconds is what the debuff lasts, so it's a very long duration dot on somebody, and you need to just keep spot healing them through the entire duration. Some people's will get refreshed like halfway through. Sometimes it'll apply to more players. You'll just keep an eye on this debuff, and basically just your whole goal as a healer is to be really watching these players and keeping them as topped off as possible, because they're going to be the ones pretty much taking damage. Everybody else doesn't really take damage until other things start happening in the fight. The next thing we'll talk about, since it's just right here, is the Predator's Howl. It's just these debuffs that go out on everybody. There's a big misconception with it, which is that it applies a circle around the player, and then it fears people that are standing in the circle. I was under the impression when I first started this raid that when you dispel people, it also activates the fear and like fears everyone around the player, so you have to like spread out and then dispel. That's actually not the case. So you can just dispel instantly. So if everyone's stacked up, usually you don't want to be all stacked up, because then you're not going to be able to dispel all the debuffs fast enough, because there's just too many compared to how many healers you run. So using stuff like Mass Dispel, Tremor Totems are really good, just in case, you know, fears end up getting off and people start running around everywhere. Then you have the Tremor Totems as kind of like a backup option. And then definitely use like a Mass Dispel every single set. So if you have multiple priests, try to, you know, rotate who's using Mass Dispel which time. And then all the healers should just be using their dispels on cooldown and getting rid of these debuffs as fast as possible. So it doesn't matter if people are on top of each other when you dispel. It just matters, like, so basically the way it works is the circle around the player, every 3 seconds that circle will kind of like pulse and fear everyone within inside the circle. So every 3 seconds, everyone inside of the circles get feared. And then the next major thing that we'll watch out for is these different soaks that there are. It's going to happen after this first intermission, I believe, or yeah, this first little intermission. Also during this intermission, a lot of people think that you take damage like while you're kind of running through all this stuff on the floor. That's also not the case. The only people taking damage during this phase is the people with the debuffs. So like I'll rewind it just a little bit, and you'll see the people with the debuffs here are still taking a sizable amount of damage. So it's definitely misleading in the fact that a lot of people think it's like all the stuff on the ground, so you need to hurry as fast as possible, but all you're doing is, again, just keeping these players topped off. And this debuff is called Grasp of Death. I don't know if I mentioned that. So there you can see they Mass Dispel the fears. Another set of people get the debuffs. Okay, and then here's the first soak. So I would definitely recommend putting this on your raid frame so you can see who has how many stacks. So there is a purple, a red, and a black soak. There's like, those are the 3 different colors of like soaks that will spawn that people need to stand in. And it depends how your group does it. I think this group is kind of just winging it, but basically DPS players should be grabbing the red one, and then you just need to keep an eye on who has how many stacks, because the more stacks they have, like you can see the Warlock here has 2, the Rogue here has 2, the Warrior has 1. Those players are going to be taking constant ticking damage for the remainder of the fight. So if they have, like, you can see this Warrior here has a fire debuff and the Grasp of Death, which is super, super bad. Especially if he had more than 1 stack of the fire debuff, it just starts hurting so, so badly. So you need to really watch these players who start soaking these, because even the Rogue here, like the Rogue has no Grasp of Death, and you can see he's taking a sizable amount of his health and damage every couple seconds. So definitely keep an eye on those players. Dispel people as often as possible. Also, it kind of sucks, but don't waste your dispel on people who get feared. If people get feared, like you can see, I'll rewind it just a tiny bit. If someone gets feared here, I think it was this monk. So right about there, the monk gets feared, you can see, just for a brief second, then someone dispels him. Or they have a tremor down. So right there, do not dispel these. because as much as you don't want players running around all over the place getting feared, it's more important to get rid of the things that are causing the fear in the first place, because if you dispel this, all you're doing is cleansing that one player. But if you dispel one of these players, you're potentially saving, multiple people from getting feared over the duration of this whole thing. So make sure you're doing that. And then that is really the fight on Mythic. It's really just all about mana management and making sure that you use a mana potion or the channeled mana potion during the fight at some point, because this fight is, it's like a 5.5 to 6 minute fight depending on when you do it and how much gear you have. And the other big tip I can give you is use your healing cooldowns and like as early and often as possible. Don't hold on to them. Don't wait until people are low HP. Just press your healing cooldowns, press Healing Tide non-stop from pretty much the very start of the fight. Press Wings, press, Ashen as soon as it's up. Even stuff like Aura Mastery. Here you can see, again, people are soaking that red one, so now people have way more stacks. And it just starts getting more and more hectic, and you have to keep, so you have to have a lot of mana going into this fight. And your goal ultimately should be you are out of mana after using a mana potion or anything like that. Like after using all your resources, you are at 0% mana when the boss hits 10% health, because once the boss is 10% health, there's nothing else to heal anymore because he doesn't debuff players anymore. All the debuffs get wiped, and all he does is run around the room and just instant kill people. So all that matters at that point is just doing damage as a healer. If you're healing during the last 10%, you're kind of trolling and wasting time as far, as the fight is concerned. You should just be doing damage. And I think that is pretty much it for Mythic Tarragrue, so hopefully this helps out. If you have any questions, let me know, or if you have any additional tips that I might have missed for other people, leave them in the comments below. But we'll be covering all the bosses as I go through them, so thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.